1. Can I eat you? Then you can stay in my body forever. Matthew said it with his head buried in my chest. His scorching breath sprayed above my heart, and my tense blood vessels suddenly contracted. My scattered consciousness gradually focused. I pushed him, but I couldn't move him. I felt for a cigarette from beside the pillow and put it in my mouth, but I couldn't find the lighter no matter how hard I tried, which made me annoyed. And then be excreted as feces? No. You'll become a part of me and stay with me forever. I bit the cigarette holder and let out a soft scoff. All the human cells will be completely metabolized into new ones in 7 years. By then, I'll completely disappear and cease to exist. Taking advantage of the moment he was lost in thought, I pushed him aside and sat up, reaching into the closet for a set of clothes. I hadn't even started putting them on when I was suddenly pinned against the cabinet door. I don't want you to disappear, I said coldly. I have an engagement. Can't you cancel it? He clutched my hand like he was afraid I'd vanish. Tight, desperate, like he'd lose me if he let go. I've checked. The cocktail party later has no value at all. Do you really want to do business or flirt with other men? Here we go again. I've told you many times not to investigate my schedule, but he just ignores it. I snapped. Can you get any more annoying? Are you annoyed with me? You're the one who loves me most, aren't you, Sebastian? You said it. You love me more than anyone else. I closed my eyes, about to flare up, but was interrupted by a click. A cluster of faint blue flames sprang up in front of me. The cigarette lit up, but before I could take a drag, Matthew snatched it away. The thin mist dispersed gently with his soft laughter. 2. I ignored him and went straight to the party. The ballroom was packed with aristocrats, laughter flowing like wine, but all I felt was a deep, bone-deep weariness. I stepped out onto the terrace alone, lighting up a cigarette. This fatigue had been creeping in for ages, long before now, but tonight, for the first time, I actually sat with the question, why have I let Matthew get away with this? Letting him take my freedom, trample my dignity, mess up my social life, why did I allow it? Was it because he's exactly my type? A case of love at first sight that turned into something reckless? Or was it just, we've been tangled together since I was 18, dragging this mess through a decade? Or did I somehow owe him 3 lives? I finished the cigarette in silence. After exhaling the last puff, I sent him a message. Matthew, we're done. It's the harshest punishment I can think of. Hope he finally learns to rein himself in. 3. I brought 5 bodyguards with me when I went to the apartment, afraid he'd lock me up again. To my surprise, he stayed calm. A few days apart had left his white shirt hanging loose on him. Maybe he'd known I was coming, because he'd already fixed his hair and shaved. Watching the men haul my things out one by one, Matthew suddenly asked, that ash from that night, did it burn you? I knew him too well. I lifted my chin and signaled 2 guards to block his step forward. Sure enough, he dropped the act right after, standing just beyond the bodyguards. Those pale eyes of his locked onto me. Unblinking, shadowed. Sebastian. He pressed his thin lips together, forcing a smirk that wasn't quite a smile. Tell me, do people turn into ghosts when they die? I didn't answer. He kept talking anyway. If I could become a ghost, that'd be perfect. Then I could stay with you forever. Wherever you go, I'd follow. No more worrying about what you're doing, who you're with, whether you've fallen for someone else. Empty threat. Even as a ghost, he'd still be a coward. He couldn't even ask why I ended it. Did he really think I'd fallen for someone else? Too bad I could never answer him again. He collapsed into the exhaust fumes behind my departing car, his white shirt soaked in that evening's blood-red sky. Only when night fell did I admit, just to myself, I was a little sorry. As for what I regret, can't really put it into words. Years later, I was burned again by ash, staring blankly as it drifted down like a feather, and somewhere deep inside me, something cracked open. The answer had been in the ashes all along. I regret not answering him back. Yes, I felt the burn, but it didn't scar. It left behind a faint red mark smaller than a cherry blossom petal. No pain at all. But when I ran my fingers over my arm, searching for that tiny bloom, I couldn't find it anywhere. 7 years had passed. The body's cells had turned over completely. Nothing left of it but memory. Matthew was gone, completely erased. On the 8th anniversary of Matthew's death, I was knocked down in a construction site crowd by someone lunging from the throng. This time, no one stepped in to take the blow. I fell clean into the bloodstain. As my vision faded, all I could think was, will I become a ghost too? But then I opened my eyes, and there was Matthew, half kneeling beside the bed, carefully patting the inside of the ankle cuff with soft fabric. For feeling me try to pull away, he suddenly tightened his grip on my ankle, eyes ice cold. Think you can run? I wasn't trying to escape. I just stared at the bruise darkening his mouth, didn't think twice. Leaned in and kissed it, warm, real, not a dream. Matthew went rigid for a split second, then slowly melted back into me. Stop pretending. You're the one who did it, aren't you? Me? I hit him. My mind snapped back to 9 years ago, the year before I brought up breaking up. My family refused to accept my relationship with Matthew, forcing me into a blind date, old money elite, top floor upscale restaurant. But Matthew showed up and ruined everything. To maintain the relationship between the two families and give the other side an explanation, I gave Matthew a symbolic punch. Sebastian, it's too late now. You're not getting me back. Just let go already. Matthew's eyes were dark with rage. You started this. You said you loved me first. You belong to me only. I suddenly laughed. He froze, his face turning even darker. What's so funny? How had I handled it before? I'd cradled his head and whispered sorry over and over, promising only him, driven by guilt, and letting him get away with one crazy act after another. A sick, obsessive control freak. Wasn't that exactly what I'd raised? And then, I'd thrown it all away myself, laughing so hard tears welled up. I wiped them with the back of my hand, then studied his face again, slowly, carefully. My fingertip brushed lightly over that ridge of hardened scar tissue on him. The knife wound, so close to the heart, left there when 18-year-old Matthew stepped in front of me. He'd always hated how it looked, ugly and raw, never letting me see it. Over time, I almost forgot he'd nearly died for me, and that his real parents were gone too. In a daze, Matthew's features flickered with the same bold, reckless fire I once knew. So I smiled at him and said, 3 things. Transfer $800 to yourself from my phone. Carry me to the shower. Change the bed sheets and then sleep. Matthew skipped straight to step 2. I don't need money. Top-tier trader, he really didn't. I didn't push him. Let him lift me up instead. Wanna know why 800? Matthew hesitated. In the end, he put me down and obediently transferred the money. I glanced at his payment status, then smirked. Good job tonight. Keep it up next time. Matthew froze for a second. His knuckles whitened around the phone as he stared at me in disbelief. What do you think I am? Still your boyfriend for now, but starting today, I'm introducing a rating system. Pay based on performance with no cap. You did earn me staying in bed all day, but you ignored my requests halfway through. So this is what I give you. My skin felt sticky and gross. I ignored the sudden drop in his mood and gave a flat reminder. Shower. He didn't budge. His dark eyes locked onto mine, unblinking. You want to break up? Not yet. So I need you to take this seriously. The day I don't send you a payment? That's it. Game over. Done. Understood. Watching his face go pale, bloodless and hollow, I bit my lip lightly and added with a light tone. Of course, it's not one way. The money I send you counts as chips. Hit a certain amount, and you can demand something from me. Anything. Go wild. His thin lips moved. Like what? Say, give me your lock screen password, or just stop letting other guys get close to you. Matthew cut in coldly. You don't need chips to make me do those things. Back to that brooding look he had when he caught me at the blind date again. What about marriage? No surprise, Matthew stiffened, a sudden ripple through his frame like a spruce shaking off snow. Trembling faintly, I let out a quiet laugh. As long as the stakes are high enough, I'll stay with you forever. 5. Forever. I'd heard Matthew say it 100 times, but I'd only whispered it a handful of times myself. In my past life, I lost Matthew forever. Now that I've got a second chance, I can't guarantee I won't make the same mistakes a year from now. But one thing's for sure, I don't want to regret again. Done tossing and turning at night, wondering what if I hadn't asked to break up, what if I'd held on when he reached for me. How different our story might have been. I'm going to mend his constant worry, fix his stubborn paranoia, and with every new chip I pile up, the more confidence I build. I'll catch him when he falls. Wrapping up a meeting, I send Matthew a message. What were you doing? He replies fast. Watching the board. He's always good during trading hours. mostly because he knows my schedule and sees I'm working too. You gonna be done soon? How'd it go? Sure enough, I ignore the question, snap a photo of my lower half, belt cinched tight, suit pants hugging long legs crossed casually. Missed you suddenly. Come to my office. After sending the message, I flipped my phone face down. I quickly calculated the time it would take from the apartment to the office and told my secretary to move up the next appointment. When Matthew walked in, I was mid-handshake with a business partner, our palms locked tight. The two of us froze. His face went sharp with surprise. Mine turned cold as ice. I gave the partner a smile and said, "No problem, he's mine. Let's keep going." Matthew didn't say a word as he stepped over to stand beside me. His presence hit like a wave, carrying the scent of shower gel. He'd just gotten out of the shower, and the clean, crisp tang of shaving cream and mouthwash lingered on him. Thoughtful, really too bad I didn't care. "Matthew," I said flatly, "go wait over there." He glanced at the spot I'd indicated, his gaze turning even colder. "What's that mean?" "Huh." I feigned just enough confusion. "Don't get it? I'm in the middle of something important." He stared at me for a beat, then stood up without a word and walked to the seat I'd pointed out. He sat down in the position I'd designated. The meeting was supposed to last half an hour, but it dragged on far longer. Matthew sitting stone-faced, eyes locked on this side of the room the whole time. I didn't even glance his way, kept right on talking like nothing was wrong, until finally he looked away, lowered his head and tapped his phone screen to life. That's when I stood up smoothly. "All right, let's wrap it here." Just as I'd escorted the other man out, before I could even open my mouth, Matthew slammed me against the desk, rougher than usual. Matthew looked down at the hand I had pressed against his chest, his expression extremely ugly. I smirked, unfazed. "Sorry, got another meeting lined up. How about we call it a day?" "You playing with me?" Teeth gritted, genuinely pissed. "Whether I have a meeting or not. Don't you know that better than anyone?" He didn't say a word, didn't let go, just stayed locked in place like that. After a long pause, I hooked my fingers around his neck and leaned in. "All right, fine, I know you've been prepping for this. So, kiss me." Matthew didn't move. I wasn't about to wait. "No kiss? Then it's off." That got a reaction. Warm lips pressed down, soft and sure. Didn't say no to kissing. At the peak of the moment, I nudged his shoulder. "Time for that meeting now." I grabbed my phone, sent the transfer, then slowly sat back up. He stared at the screen, voice sharp. "Why's there an extra zero this time?" "Because it felt good. 2 hours of brutal effort. Not worth 2 minutes of kissing." Matthew's jaw was rigid, shoulders tense, like the sky had cracked and he was still holding it together. "Last time wasn't enough? It worked, but you were so damn good today. I just couldn't help giving a little more." When he finally leaned in, almost breaking his own control, I tilted my head up and feigned confusion. "Something else? Forget the meeting." My reply was quick, tone cold now. "Sure, absolutely, but first you gotta hand over 8,000. I reached out and pinched the corner of his phone. Matthew froze, then quickly clenched it tight. "What gives? Why take it back?" "Because you're backing out. Goes against everything I've said about you being reliable when you listen to me. You really think a kiss is worth 8 grand? I tugged, but it didn't budge. Matthew flinched and yanked his hand behind his back. "No way." "Oh, so we're not doing it then. I'll wait for you at home." He didn't push me any further, just turned and walked away. This was the first time he'd pulled back on his own, choosing restraint, all for staying with me forever. If we made it through once, we can do it again. One day, we'll just be a normal couple, right? 6. The alarm went off once and was promptly silenced. Matthew quietly slipped out of bed. Then the kitchen filled with the soft clatter of breakfast prep. I stared at the ceiling, lost in thought. Back when he was alive, Matthew hated every second between waking up and leaving the house. He'd act like a dog with separation anxiety, hovering around me, messing with everything I did. Even if we live to be 80, we've only got 50 years left. Too damn short. Why waste time on people and things that don't matter? Can't we just stay together all the time? "Please, Sebastian, stay home. I'll take care of you." That kind of conversation played out every single day, until he died by suicide. After that, the guy who used to love nothing more than lying in bed me would spring up the second the alarm went off. No hesitation, no delay. I was terrified of realizing too late that the other side of the bed was cold without him. Terrified of hearing his sleepy voice begging me again. And worse, I dreaded being flooded with guilt over never having answered him when he needed me most. Breakfast's ready. Want to sleep a bit longer. I shifted my gaze from the ceiling to Matthew's face and pulled the covers tighter around myself. 5 more minutes. 36 years of life. Long enough to feel like I've had it all figured out, lived bold and fierce. But this? Finally having any real control over how things go with Matthew. That was new territory for me. Matthew slid back in beside me, and 5 more minutes became another 5, then another. His assistant sent through the day's schedule. He paused at the bottom of the list. High school reunion. My memory isn't great. Too many years have passed. But I don't recall exactly what happened that night. Just how, after coming back from it, Matthew went into another one of his fits and chained me to the bedpost for a full day and night. You going? His chin rested on my shoulder. Awkward but still sweet within my limits, restless yet obedient. Yeah, I'm going. Those people are all big shots now, just using old friendship as an excuse to close deals. Even though I already knew the answer, I asked anyway, what about you? Of course I'm going. High school reunions are breeding grounds for cheating. Gotta keep an eye on you. Not a hostile demand. Just the sweetest kind of possessiveness. I turned toward him and ran my fingers across his cheek. The bruise had long faded. Still, I couldn't resist leaning in for a soft kiss. That face. Stunning. Really, like something straight out of a god's dream. Always makes my heart race no matter how many times I see it. My fingers twitched suddenly. Except that day. Except every single day after that. I lowered my eyes, murmuring, "Stay close to me." One little lapse like that, and I'd already ditched my plan to keep things under control. There's plenty of time ahead, no need to be so strict. In a moment like this, giving him security might actually work just fine. So I thought, and for the rest of the night, I kept things light. Just enough distance, nothing over the line. But still, some people couldn't help themselves. Grabbing my shoulders, touching me like we were old friends. Glanced at Matthew. He was calm, expression unreadable, not a flicker of reaction. My nerves finally settled. Guess all that time spent training him really paid off. As the party wound down, my old friend showed up late. His eyes lit up when he saw me, and he marched straight over. The only one here I could actually talk to about the past. The obvious choice for best man. He'd been busy running the overseas branch these past couple years, so we hadn't seen each other in ages. Man, flight was delayed. Starving me. He slung an arm around my shoulder and tugged me toward the buffet. Come on, eat with me. I gave him a real smile. What's the rush? Nobody's stealing your food. Just as I picked up my plate, he suddenly shifted tone, dropping his voice low. Yaoi, you still with him? I froze, instinctively turned my head. Matthew hadn't followed us. Probably didn't hear a word. It's just fun. Don't go throwing yourself in. No, not fun at all. I mean it. My childhood friend shot me a sidelong glance, shoving a huge bite of pasta into his mouth. I know you feel guilty about him, but after all these years, your family's already poured enough support into him. He's practically crossed over to the upper class. What else do you want? I slowly narrowed my eyes, about to retort, when a sharp clatter came from behind me. Matthew was half-crouched beside the dessert tower, staring at a shattered macaron, cracked open like it had been hit with a hammer. A waiter rushed over to clean up. I instinctively stepped forward, but my arm was yanked back. See? Trying to force your way into a world that isn't yours. That's what happens. You've been out in the cold too long. Your bitterness has gone full sour. I snapped, cool and sharp. Before you open your mouth again, go check who your dad's licking up for favors these days. Wait, what? His expression blanked for a second, then slowly widened in shock. Is it really him? I didn't answer. I shook off his grip and turned toward Matthew. You okay? Matthew looked at me with a calm expression and said, I just dropped it. Like sweets? I rarely see you eat dessert. Let the hotel send some to the house. No need, he said, glancing briefly over my shoulder at my friend. Finished. I nodded and took his hand. Let's go home. His palm was shockingly cold. Why's it so icy? Even lacing our fingers together couldn't warm it up. So I slipped both hands into the pocket of my coat. Matthew gave a tiny tug, just once, then let me keep going. As I looked up, I caught something fleeting across his face. A shadow of deep quiet. A strange unease flickered in my chest. Something slipped through the cracks. I've made my stance clear, cleared up everything, so what's still off? Shaking my head slightly, I snagged his arm. The party was breaking up, people drifting toward the parking lot in loose groups, glancing over at us now and then. My relationship with Matthew isn't a secret in the circle, but I've never publicly admitted it. Kiss me. Matthew's hand twitched. Save it for home. Just a coward pretending to be bold, only daring when it's just us. Now. Here. Kiss me. He didn't move. Just his palms, pressed together, grew warmer, the pocket of his coat glowing hot against my hand. Lowering my voice, I laid down my ace. 10 grand. Matthew's eyes flickered for a moment. Then he lowered his head slightly and pressed his lips against mine. The hotel's glittering chandelier blinded me. I closed my eyes and kissed back. Then he pulled away clean, sharp, before I could deepen it, and yanked his hand right back with him. I've never liked airing out private stuff in public. Back when some gossip monger tried to grill me about Matthew, I'd never confirm or deny. Just waved them off with a shrug and a vague whatever. So I figure Matthew must have been pretty disappointed, which is why he kept pressing me in private, asking if I really loved him. This kiss was my way of saying yes to us. But why does he look? You're not happy? No. Matthew pressed his lips together. But don't do that in public again. It's not really appropriate. The guy who'd shoved that damn thing down my throat before the gala now suddenly cared about what was appropriate? Not worth arguing with. 7. The car came to a smooth stop downstairs, and Matthew sat motionless, still as stone. Matthew, he turned his head slowly, the cold glow of his phone screen painting shadows across his sharp features. The screen shows the record of my transfer, and he's doing the math. Sebastian. Matthew shut off the screen, then fixed me with a steady gaze. How much longer until I can make demands? I blinked, my tense nerves finally unwinding. Wait. So he actually wants something? Lately our intimacy's been tepid. Guess he's itching for more intensity again. I tapped the back of the driver's seat, signaling him to step out first. What kind of game are you into? Honestly, the progress on taming this obsessive control freak back into something normal has been going really well. So why not throw in a little reward now and then? I counted it off on my fingers. 10 grand for the car, 20 in the elevator, 100 at the rooftop, and kissing? Free. But Matthew asked, what about forever? Huh? I didn't catch it right away. The forever option. So eager, huh? I smirked silently to myself. Me too. I've been desperate enough to sneak measurements of his finger while he slept. The custom Cartier band should be nearly finished by now. 2 million. Exactly the price of the rings. Matthew didn't say a word, so I leaned in. How much more do you need? 1.39 million. His voice was low, a little flat, tinted with something. I chewed on it for a second. Suddenly, a strange warmth welled up. Longing. Weird. Why'd that hit me like that? I playfully wrapped my arms around his neck and murmured, it'll be fast, on this pace. Next month's got you covered. 2 months. Plenty of time to design the whole proposal setup. His hand on my back slowly tightened, sliding down along my spine toward my waist. He let out a deep, slow hum in response. The touch left me dizzy, and I made it clear again. Kiss? Free of charge. This time he got the hint. Matthew hooked my chin with his fingers and kissed me right on the mouth. The moment fizzled out mid-heat, leaving only our ragged breaths in the dim glow of the car. Sorry, I couldn't stop. We were stuck in that awkward spot where neither of us wanted to move. I nuzzled closer, whispering, keep going, my treat. Been letting you get away with way too much already. Just this once? No harm done. Another month had passed, and Matthew was so used to our reward and review system that he'd even start nudging me when I forgot to give him a rating, usually just a few times a month. Honestly adorable. This guy, who handles billions with a flick of his wrist, still haggles over a few $100 like it's life or death, and he checks the numbers every single night like some kind of ritual countdown. I can't help but want to skip ahead, just to see what he'll look like when I propose. Will he cry? I've never seen Matthew shed a tear, not even when he was stabbed through the chest, or when he saw the photo of his parents lying in a filthy ditch. No tears then. He's like a kite strung too tight, trembling on the edge of snapping. My chest twinges, like something's pulling at my heartstrings. But when I pause and really feel it, It's probably just in my head. Nothing solid to hold on to. For hours straight of meetings. Then my neck and shoulders were so stiff I could barely move. I had to get physio. By the time it was done, I got home way later than usual. Matthews, in his lounge clothes, slumped on the sofa, eyes glued to his laptop screen. He shuts the lid and stands up at the sound of the door. Dinner? I made a soup. The living room glows warm. His sharp profile softens in the light. I'm staring, lost in thought, and before I know it, I blurt out, "You're not gonna ask why I'm late?" He stirs his spoon and turns toward me. "You texted me." "True. I did send a message, but just said I was held up for a bit. Didn't say where I'd been." I push down the strange tightness in my chest and nod. "I'll shower first. Be quick." Worried about the soup cooling, I start unbuttoning my shirt, but freeze halfway through. The old therapist was rough. The red marks on my shoulders and neck stand out sharp against my pale skin. My scalp tightened, and I instinctively glanced at Matthew. He'd clearly seen it too. His face was blank, just locked onto my shoulder, then slowly lifted to meet my eyes. "My neck's been bothering me. Got it worked on." I stammered out the excuse, hard to explain, but when I saw his reaction, I felt an unexpected wave of relief, and beneath that, a faint flicker of hope. Hope for him. "So, you feel better now? Need me to help you shower?" Matthew stayed put, and I slowly lowered my hand. First time in a while feeling completely lost. "Much better. No thanks." My voice came out flat like that. By the time I'd finished, Matthew was already waiting with the hairdryer. I sat sipping warm soup while he dried my hair. The whole world filled up with the hum of the dryer and the sound of me swallowing. Yet I still felt strangely quiet, too quiet. Why wasn't he saying anything? Why wasn't he questioning me? We were getting more and more like a real couple. So why did I suddenly feel confused about what that even meant? Matthew switched off the dryer, then placed his hands on my shoulders. Firm but not too heavy. Matthew hasn't been proactive for a long time. Every time, it's me who wriggles over to him and crawls into the covers shamelessly. He only ever lit up when money was involved. So I made the move. Matthew's throat bobbed once. He shook his head. "You're still sore. Let's skip it today." "Sore neck doesn't matter. Sebastian, I've got work to handle." A strange jolt surged through me. I stared down at the man before me, voice sharp. "Matthew, it's past trading hours for A-shares, and the U.S. market hasn't even opened yet. What kind of work could you possibly have right now?" Matthew leaned in and kissed him softly. "Got some work to do tomorrow, okay?" His lips were warm, and something inside loosened up. Just one more kiss. Matthew cupped his face, giving him a slow, deliberate kiss. "You go ahead and sleep." The pout melted away almost instantly. "Fine. Then you get some rest too." But he didn't come into the room all night. Not until dawn did he quietly tug at the edge of the blanket beside him, ruffling it slightly before slipping into the kitchen. I opened my eyes, didn't call him out on his little trick, just watched silently as he stood over the stove making breakfast. Then turned on my screen and sent a message to my assistant. 9. My family's been in industry for generations. Never really touched finance, but I've kept an eye on it lately. Things have been pretty volatile recently. Matthew's got a massive stake, and that big ship's struggling to turn in the narrow, choppy strait. So, is Matthew acting weird because he's under too much work pressure? Can't remember anything from my last life at all. Matthew knows every move I make, but rarely talks about his own job. Always brings me good news, never the bad. Forget those extreme, over-the-top control tactics, I'll say it. In some ways, he's actually more of a proper partner than I am. The driver changes course, turning toward another road, finally parking right under the fund company building where Matthew leans against. Don't know beans about it, and honestly, no clue if I can even help him out. But even a little helps. Just being able to do something small would mean the world. This second chance at life is too precious not to make it lighter for both of us. I just want us to stay a little longer. Matthew quit. Didn't he tell you? The person in charge of the meeting looked utterly frazzled. To avoid panicking our clients, the news hasn't been made public yet, but the handover process will be wrapped up in the next couple of days. My ears were ringing. I couldn't make sense of anything. The secretary lunged and caught me before my knees gave out. Why would he do this? Why suddenly quit like that? Last life, I don't remember anything like this happening. A wild, chilling thought slithered into my mind. Could it be Matthew's reborn too? Hard to ignore the weird vibe he's been giving off lately. Distant, detached, like nothing really mattered anymore. My brain went dead in an instant. Like that day he was in a white shirt, just sitting there quietly at home waiting for me, then silently leapt out the window after I left. My fingers trembled uncontrollably. I couldn't string together a single sentence. I fought to steady my breathing and finally gripped Sebastian's sleeve with white-knuckled force. Hurry! Get us home. Stumbling up the stairs, fumbling the code over and over until it locked out. I took a sharp breath, wiped the blur from my eyes, clutched my right wrist hard with my left hand, and typed each digit slowly. Halfway through, the door swung open. Warm light spilled across me from the living room. Frozen in place, I couldn't move a muscle. Matthew stood barefoot in the entryway, mid-yawn, probably woken halfway through a nap by the repeated wrong code alerts. His eyes were still foggy with sleep. When he saw my raw panic, his expression snapped to full alert. His face went tight with alarm. What the hell happened? I just stood there, frozen. He glanced quickly outside the door, no one else around. Checked all around me front and back. Nothing wrong, no injuries. Then he gently reached out and steadied my shoulders. What's going on? My throat tightened. I bit down hard on my lip to hold back the sob, but couldn't stop the years of buried hurt from spilling through. Matthew, I got burned by cigarette ash. 10. Matthew froze for a split second, his rigid expression softening just slightly. Where'd it hurt? He didn't notice the few strands of hair sticking up from sleep, carefully examining my hand, searching every inch, then crouching down. No sign on his suit pants, not on my arms either. But when I pointed to the pale, smooth skin and said out of nowhere, "Here," Matthew didn't ask a single question. He just stayed half-crouched, lifting my hand to press a kiss right on my forearm. Still hurt. I nodded slowly, then paused, shook my head again. Something twisted inside me. I blurted out, "Matthew, did you hurt back then?" He looked up, eyes sharp. "When? The ones who took me. When we ran away." "Sebastian." Matthew suddenly cut me off, his fingers tightening around mine. "Don't go there. Not again." I tried to say something more, but he was already on his feet, crouching down to lift me up. "You look awful. Stay in bed today." He laid me on the mattress and turned to leave, but I grabbed at him instantly. "I'll get you a glass of hot water. I'll be right back." I didn't let go. We stood frozen, and then Matthew exhaled almost imperceptibly. Just a whisper, and pulled back the covers to climb in beside me. A soft hand brushed my back. "Did you have a nightmare on the road?" "Not a nightmare. It was our real past. Matthew, I never actually wanted to break up with you." His touch stilled, though I didn't notice. The terror of losing Matthew had seized my mind completely. I clung to the hem of his shirt, knowing full well he hadn't come back from death, knowing he remembered nothing at all, and still couldn't stop myself. "I just wanted you to pull back a little. Because sometimes you really go too far. But how could you be so cold? Everyone's celebrating. I'm finally free. Only I know, I'm trapped. Forever." His arms wrapped tight around my waist, pulling me fully into his chest. I know you don't want to let me go. And I know." His chest pressed against mine, Matthew's voice rumbling through his ribs, vibrating straight into my skull. "You're trapped." The Matthew in front of me couldn't possibly know what I just thought. My guard shot up. I lifted my head, wrenched myself free from his hold, and shoved him down hard. "What the hell are you talking about? Matthew, why did you quit?" Matthew avoided my gaze and answered off topic. "How many points would you give me for this performance?" I froze, took a solid beat before it even registered what he meant. "What? Are you serious? Don't flip this upside down. You really need the cash." "I need the 2 million you owe me." "No." My eyes widened slowly, like I just plunged into an ice bath, sinking fast. A cold realization crept in. Our stakes were never the same. I'd been waiting for him to ask me to stay forever, then pull out a ring and propose back at me. But he was already planning something else entirely. The last thing I ever wanted to see. We were supposed to be on the same page from the start. When did that change? "No deal. I'm taking it back." "You walked out without asking?" That's pissed me off. I snatched his phone from the nightstand and scrolled straight to the top conversation. No password, no friction. My fingertip hovered over the screen, frozen. I saw it clearly. The note behind my name now read, "Last 30K. My blood went cold all over. Stop it. He yanked the phone from my hand, and my palm went instantly empty. My heart dropped right along with it. I couldn't lie to myself anymore. His message was clear enough. He didn't want to be with me anymore. He was using it as leverage, trying to trade a way out. 11. Our standoff was cut short by a phone call from home, telling me to come back for the family dinner. Bring him too. Dad added that last bit, sharp and cold. I glanced at Matthew. He was already up, pulling on his jacket. You're going. They'd always been dead against me and Matthew being together. Now suddenly including him? Through me. Even more surprising was Matthew's reaction. He just nodded, yeah, after all these years of refusing to set foot in my house, even shutting down the topic completely, because every time he did, it brought back that night. 18, his family gone, everything burned down. Dad's climb to power was ruthless. He cleared out rivals with no mercy, shook up the whole system, made enemies left and right. They couldn't touch him, so they went after me instead. This wasn't a kidnapping with any intention of ransom. Just pure, brutal revenge. No room for mercy. I was left in an abandoned factory for 3 days before a pair of scrap metal collectors found me by accident. Simple souls their whole lives. They couldn't wrap their heads around the twisted motives behind it all. They thought I just wandered in playing, called their son to take my fragile self to the hospital. 18-year-old Matthew was lean and tall, like a sturdy bamboo stalk, tough, straight, unyielding. I fell asleep on his back, exhausted and relieved, and when I opened my eyes again, I was in a hospital suite. My father ranted about how reckless I'd been, giving him so much trouble, but even he softened by the end. No relatives around, that kid's lucky to be alive. Bring him into the house, find him a job. If he doesn't make it, well, that's just fate. Matthew survived, and not only did he pull through, but he transferred to my elite school and ended up at the same university as me. People always said we looked like a pair when we were together. Matthew more like a proper young lord than I ever was. He wore this cool, detached air all the time, while I hovered around him, doing whatever he needed. Only I knew how tightly wound he stayed. Like a spring coiled too tight with nowhere to snap. The guilty got their due, yet the ones who lived were burdened by guilt, and still somehow innocent. When I finally realized he was drawn to men, it hit me this might be my opening. I tried everything, every trick in the book, but he never flinched. On my 19th birthday, I ditched the party and slipped quietly into his little room. They're all in hell now, the ones who kidnapped me, who killed your parents. Matthew, I could go to hell too, but before I do, can you let me stay here on Earth? Just for a little while. So I can love you? The one I love, only you. After that night, I was at his door nearly every evening, and getting caught? Well, it wasn't exactly surprising anymore. It wouldn't be a surprise if I got caught, but facing my father's furious wrath, I still flinched instinctively, head down, saying nothing. Matthew stayed silent for a long time. Then, just as I was about to face his punishment, he spoke up. I made him do it. I forced him to do this. He said it flatly. Gratitude turned into hatred. He'd saved my life. Yet my father began resenting his very existence. 9 years had passed since I'd left the Chin family. 9 years before I returned. 12. The family dinner hung thick with tension. When it finally ended, I was cornered by my father's new wife. She wasn't even trying to hide her game. Her plan to push her son forward lay bare and frankly too obvious to bother calling out. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Matthew head upstairs. My heart skipped a beat, and I was up and moving before I even thought about it. People on either side grabbed at me again. I didn't care about pretending anymore, cold-shouldered them and pushed through. Snide remarks and mocking whispers fell behind me. My mind locked only on Matthew. Why would Matthew even go upstairs? The study door was ajar. I steadied my breath, raised my hand. You're good at hiding things. My movement froze midair. Through the crack, a stack of papers slapped down on the desk. Matthew stood by it, barely glancing up. Your parents were real pros at playing their part. Dying right before the scene? Nice touch, really made you look like the big winner. Facing my father's fury, Matthew just shrugged and said, they never thought that far ahead. Fine, let's not talk about them. Father let out a cold laugh. Talk about yourself. What kind of dog are you? Sebastian's got a soft heart, and you've been tying him up with guilt for years, publicly humiliating him like that. How many people have laughed behind his back? How much longer do you plan to bleed him dry? What the hell? What is he even talking about? The door creaked open. Father saw me, his face darkened, and slammed the table hard. Perfect. Come in and watch. He was talking about Matthew's parents' medical records, the grim diagnosis, maybe because they couldn't afford treatment. So what? That doesn't change the fact they saved me. You're the one who's responsible, shifting blame from one disaster to another, just so you can sleep easy at night. No, wait. You don't even have a conscience. I mimicked his laugh, and there was never any coercion. From day one, it was me, begging Matthew to take me, practically on my knees. Shut up. Don't you have any shame? He roared, cutting me off, his eyes bloodshot. You're possessed. His hand rose high, wind rushing down, but it never landed on me. Matthew seized his wrist, voice calm. Let me speak to Sebastian alone. How bold I'd been before him. Now I was utterly undone. I couldn't bear to listen. No, I gripped his jacket, fingers trembling. Let's just go home, please. Let's go home. Matthew slowly pried my fingers off one by one, then calmly unlocked his phone. The ping of a transfer notification. My whole body went rigid, trembling uncontrollably, darkness swimming in front of my eyes. No. Don't. Say it. Matthew looked up at me, his first real smile in days. His lashes were damp, but his eyes held a quiet, hopeless acceptance that shattered me. Sebastian, we're even now. Never see each other again. You're free. 13. Matthew vanished again. For the second time now. Everyone came rushing over to congratulate me. Finally free of that parasitic little creep who'd been sucking us dry for years. He was scary from the start. Just imagine where he'd ended up if we hadn't cut ties. That time he trashed the blind date? I wanted to speak up then, but his grip on our family assets kept me quiet. Fear of retaliation. He's already been abusive. How many times have I seen Sebastian at parties with red marks on his wrists? Like he'd been tied up. And that's why he always wears high collars, right? Poor guy. We should have never let someone like him rise in the first place. A quick payout and we'd have been done with it. Chun family was just too soft-hearted. Phew, glad he's finally gone. He had skills for sure, but handing over the estate to him? Never would have felt safe. All this could have only happened because of Lucas. Amidst the buzzing, fly-like chatter, I heard my childhood friend's name. I lifted my head, staring straight at him. His gaze flickered away for a second, then he shrugged. Back then, I didn't know, did I? If I'd known Sebastian would turn out this way, I'd have acted ages ago. I gave a cold twitch of my lips. What exactly do you think I needed you to act on? He froze, mouth opening, then I cut him off mid-sentence. And you lot? What's it got to do with you how Matthew and I are? Seriously. A ripple of silence passed through the room, followed by glances tinged with irritation. We were only trying to protect you. We've known each other since we were kids. How could we just stand by and watch you get ruined by someone like him? Someone like him. I leaned back into the pillow, watching the drip of fluid in the forebag, and let out a quiet laugh. Or is it just jealousy? A stranger shows up, sweeps in effortlessly, and knocks you flat. Years of elite training, all for nothing. Bet you didn't get much praise at home either. The irritation flared into outright accusation. All I felt was tired. Why does everyone assume I'm the one being forced? My indulgence was always my own choice. The question that had stumped me with a single cigarette back then. I figured it out long ago, over years of silence and waiting. It was simple because I love him. I love Matthew, so I let myself be. But I've never been good at saying things like that. Even to myself, it's always been a mess. I probably never managed to make him understand. I tried so hard this time to show it in real ways, and still ended up making things worse. But at least he's still alive. I clenched my fist, pressing into the skin of my palm. The 4-needle bit deep into a vein, sharp and insistent. I got sick because of him. He owes me an explanation now. 14. Matthew's POV. I've never been able to tell what Sebastian really feels for me. Sometimes he says he loves me. Other times, he swears he hates me. 10 years of this? Enough already. He probably doesn't even realize it. But sometimes, I catch him looking tired, just for a second. Then he snaps back, all sharp words and stubborn affection, pushing me away while pulling me closer. Clearly exhausted. still forcing himself to keep going. I couldn't figure out why he stuck around. Until I found out he'd hired someone to renovate my parents' graves. It's guilt. Pure and simple. Even after all these years, I've kept myself distant. Refused to let him see the scar, even when it mattered. But my parents' deaths, the revenge strike that took them, they were killed because I stepped in front of that blade meant for him. That's something he'll never get over. The silence dragged on, until I saw him sneaking around with a woman at the coffee shop. Finally, he gets it, but I've still got to play my part. Keep up the act of being obsessed, unstable, like some kind of vengeful ghost. When I carried Sebastian home, he was really shaking with anger and said in a fit of pique that he never wanted to see me again. Still, I shot back hard. Mean as hell? But inside, my chest ached like it was splitting open. Perfect, you're really leaving. But the second he bent down to fasten that chain, something shifted in him. He stood there like he was above me, daring me to push back. But his eyes gave him away, trembling like a soaked butterfly caught in the wind. What's changed now? I actually like the reward system he proposed. It gave me a glimpse of hope between us. I've seen every move he's made. Knew he'd ordered rings, was already planning to ask me to marry him. He wants to spend the rest of his life with me, so I played along, pretending not to know, while secretly stoking a quiet kind of hope. Until that class reunion, he felt guilty about me, wanted to make up for everything I'd lost. Over a lifetime, should have known all along. What was I even hoping for? That he actually loved me? He's exhausted already. So many nightmares, him clutching me tight, crying without knowing it, whispering, "I'm sorry," over and over. Sorry, again and again. Just sorry. He didn't know me that apology. I couldn't chain him to my pain. His guilt wasn't mine to carry. I ended up in a quiet little town, working as just another run-of-the-mill trader at a brokerage firm. Life was flat, dull just like water. Truth be told, this was exactly what I deserved. That mistake at 18 finally came to an end, and my life was back on track. But one night, I had a really weird dream. Everyone says you can't see your own face in dreams. But in this one, I saw it clearly. A pale version of myself, a crimson sky burning across my white shirt. He didn't speak, but his voice echoed from all around me. You know, once you're dead, you can't protect him anymore. You just have to watch as he falls into a pool of blood. Completely helpless. He's never loved anyone else. He only ever loved you. That red was too vivid to ignore. I couldn't look away. I deliberately leaked a bit of information. The next day after work, I saw Sebastian in my small rental apartment. He was leaning against the head of my bed, a cigarette glowing between his fingers. "I'm sick," he said. He looked perfectly fine. Still, I felt a knot in my chest. I walked over and pressed my hand against his arm. "Where does it hurt?" The next second, he'd pinned me to the bed. A cold, hard ring forced onto my ring finger. Perfect fit. It was simple, just a single band, like the one he wears, a Mobius strip, just like the one he's wearing. "You can't get away from me. I want you with me forever."